The schoolyard had mostly emptied, the laughter of children fading as parents collected their little ones. A soft breeze rustled through the trees, scattering leaves across the pavement. The single dad, James, walked hand in hand with his son, chatting about art class and snack time. He wasn't expecting anything unusual, just another routine pickup. Then he heard it. A whisper, barely audible over the wind. He glanced over and saw a little girl sitting alone on a bench near the playground. She couldn't have been older than 7. Her pigtails drooped slightly, and she sat stiffly, wincing as she shifted her weight. Beside her, another girl leaned in close. That's when James heard it clearly. "It hurts when I sit." James froze mid-step. His son tugged at his hand, but James didn't move. His eyes locked onto the girl, his casual smile gone in an instant. The words repeated in his head like a drumbeat. "It hurts when I sit." He had been a dad long enough to know the difference between a scraped knee and something deeper. Something darker. He watched as the girl glanced around nervously, her small frame tensed, her eyes, too old for her age, filled with fear she didn't dare voice out loud. No teachers were nearby. No one else seemed to notice. But James had. And something deep in his chest twisted painfully. He couldn't look away. Couldn't pretend he hadn't heard. That simple sentence had cut through the noise of everyday life and struck a chord he couldn't ignore. He knelt beside his son and gently whispered, "Wait here, buddy." Then he stood and turned toward the bench, his expression shifting, not just concerned, but resolved. Because he knew in that moment, he had to do something. The fluorescent lights in the town community center buzzed faintly overhead. Rows of folding chairs filled the room, occupied by school staff, local officials, and a handful of concerned citizens. The meeting had started with routine updates, funding, bus schedules, playground repairs. But then James stood up. And everything changed. His voice trembled at first but quickly rose with urgency. "I'm telling you, something is happening to that child. I heard her say it. I saw the pain in her face. Someone needs to step in before it's too late." A murmur rippled through the crowd. A few heads turned away. Others stared down at their hands, suddenly fascinated by their notepads or phones. One woman from the school board shifted in her seat, her expression tight with discomfort. Finally, a balding councilman near the front cleared his throat. "That family's had problems before," he muttered, not meeting James's eyes. James stared at him, stunned. "What does that have to do with now? With a little girl who flinches when she sits down?" Another official spoke up, her tone cool and dismissive. "Mr. Carter, you're not a social worker. You may have misheard. We can't act on rumors." "I didn't mishear anything," James shot back. "And that child deserves someone to fight." Rain poured steadily from a dark, overcast sky, turning the dirt path in front of the house into thick, sticky mud. The small, weathered home sat hunched at the end of a forgotten street, paint peeling, windows dim, the porch light flickering like it might give up at any moment. James stood under the broken awning, water dripping from his coat, his breath visible in the cold. He stared at the cracked wooden door in front of him, heart pounding, jaw set with determination. He knocked. Once. Twice. Then a pause. For a long moment, there was nothing. Just the rain and the faint creak of old wood settling. Then, a soft rustle behind the curtain. The door opened a few inches. A pair of wide, frightened eyes peeked out. It was her. The same little girl from the bench. Her pigtails were messier now. She wore an oversized hoodie that nearly swallowed her small frame. Her lip trembled when she recognized him. James knelt down slowly, careful not to alarm her, the rain soaking into his jeans. "You don't have to be alone in this anymore," he said softly, voice steady but gentle. "I heard you. And I believe you. She didn't speak, but her grip on the door tightened. From inside the house, a shadow moved past a window. James's shoulders tensed. Danger wasn't far. But neither was help. "I won't leave until I know you're safe," he added, meeting her eyes with quiet reassurance. For a heartbeat, the storm was silent. Then, her eyes softened. Her tiny hand opened the door just a little wider. Trust, fragile but real, had taken root. And for the first time in what may have been a long, long time, she didn't feel completely. The courthouse steps glistened with morning dew, but inside, the air was charged with something heavier: anticipation, resolution, and the weight of justice long delayed. Reporters clustered near the courtroom doors, cameras poised, microphones in hand. Inside the courtroom, the gavel had already fallen. The verdict was in. James sat on the wooden bench, his suit slightly wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes betraying sleepless nights. But beside him, clutching his hand, was the little girl, now legally his daughter. Her hair was neatly brushed, her small frame wrapped in a soft yellow cardigan. She looked up at him with quiet trust. The courtroom doors opened. 2 officers escorted the abuser out in handcuffs, his face stony and pale. He didn't look at the girl. But she looked at him, calm, steady, no longer afraid. A wave of murmurs rose in the room as the press surged forward. On the steps outside, a reporter pushed forward, voice sharp, "Mr. Carter, what made you get involved? You didn't know her." No one else spoke up. James paused. He looked down at the girl beside him, then at the crowd. "Because she deserved someone who wouldn't look away," he said simply. A hush fell over the crowd. He didn't need applause or headlines. The only thing that mattered was the small hand gripping his, and the soft smile beginning to return.